Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany. I am an artist, a creative soul, a seeker of adventures. But today I'm going to tap into my artist side, and I am on my 3-year journey to live the life of my dreams. And one of those dreams is to become a full-time artist. And so I'm going to show you how I do art and my learning process. I am currently working on figure drawings, and I want to get the essence of the body and the position of the anatomy. So that's what you're going to see today. Me doing figure drawing, which honestly, I didn't realize that I had missed doing so much. When I first started doing art, I would just see it and then draw it, like cartoons and stuff. And then I went to a community college for 2 years. And in that was the first time that I had like real art training. And I got to do figure drawing with live models. And it was a new experience, right? Because I've never drawn anyone live before, and also these were nude models, so all of this was new to me, and it was very intense. But I loved it. I loved how the body curves and dips and straightens, and the positions that you put your body in and how you can express that. Also, your body shape. Everybody's body shape is different, and how you draw that, it's really beautiful. And I chose this model because I loved the curves of her body. I love the thickness of her thighs and her calves, which are similar to mine. I love how she's just so graceful. She's so beautiful. And I wanted to express that. And I wanted to make sure that I got as close to where the picture is as possible. In hindsight, looking back at it, I do see some things that I have to work on. Like, I feel her arms are not close enough to her face. That's something that I would change, right? I would want to make her thighs a little bit fuller, because that's how it looks. She looks like a very strong, elegant woman. And I want to make sure that I can represent that properly. I can't say that I've always wanted to be an artist. It was something that I realized later in life. But what I can say is I've always had stories in my head. I don't know, it sounds weird when you say it out loud, but I would always think of stories and I would play them in my head like it was a movie. That's something that I love when I'm reading. I can visualize every word into details into a picture. I also went to see my friend play Dungeons and Dragons one time, and I just watched. I wanted to observe how to play because I've never played before, and I just wanted to see. And as they were going through the game, I could visualize every detail. And when it wasn't clear and they had to stop to do something, my brain would work it out. Just like when I'm reading, if something isn't clear, I'll reread it until I can clearly visualize it, and then it plays like a movie in my head. And all of the stories that I want to share with everyone plays like a movie in my head. And I want to get to a position in life where my art can match the details in the story that I have. And so that's why I'm working so hard. And that's what I'm working on. Okay, so I chose this character because I loved this character. I chose this model because I loved the dynamics of the pose. It's not something typical. You could see that he had to move into that pose to capture that moment. And that's not something that you could do in a live drawing. So I really love that, they were able to capture this moment, and then I could try my best to express that pose. And it was a little challenging. One of the biggest issues that I have is proportions. As you'll see, like just now, but also during this whole process, I draw big and then I just keep downsizing. And when I draw on paper, that is not something that I'll be able to do, like downsize. So I definitely need to learn how to draw smaller. But thank God for digital, it's a lot more forgiving. So as I was drawing him, I realized that I really need to focus on the muscles, right? To really get the curves, but the lines that are inside of the muscles. If that makes sense, like when you stretch out your arm and you have that muscle, you do have a curve, but like where that muscle cuts, it's a lot harder. And so while his pose was fun and challenging, it was something that made me realize that I definitely need to draw more men. And I need to also draw more dynamic poses that I have to figure out, because I can't see it, where the body is positioned. It's a work in progress, but I'm gonna get there. So like I said, I was in a community college for a little bit before I went to a 4-year school. And in the first drawing classes that I had, the first assignment, he gave us a paper bag and he told us to crumple it up and then draw the bag. And I crumpled it up and I drew every line, every curve, and I brought it in. I was like, this is good. And he said, this is trash. Clearly you're an amateur. Clearly you don't know what you're doing. Like, everyone telling me why this is wrong, why this is amateur. And they shredded me, y'all. The way I was upset, and I did not like this man because he gave me the hardest time, and I just could not get better in his eyes. But you know what they say, those who can't teach, okay? And he was bitter that he had to be a community college teacher or professor. I'm sorry. He hated it. You could tell in the way that he handled the classes, the way that he talked. He just was like not here for it. But even though all the criticism was harsh, I still enjoyed the class. It was tough, but it was fun. And I kicked myself because I really wished that I would have double majored when I went to the 4-year school. I have a degree in graphic design, and once I got through the core classes, we were no longer drawing this way. We were more focusing on design. And I learned a lot, but it was not what I wanted to do. And this is why I'm not a graphic designer. I absolutely hated it. But if I had done this as well as, art, graphic design and art, I think I would have been in a different position. But, hindsight is 20/20, and I'm here now, and that's all that matters. And you can't go back, You can just start now. Even if you're older, even if it took you longer, as long as you accomplish what you wanted to do, you could still do it, no matter how old you are. So I want to be a full-time artist, and I'm figuring out now what I want to do specifically. So far, this is what I have. I want to be a webtoon artist. I want to put out the stories that are in my head and put them on paper for you guys to read and see, and I hope that it makes you feel lots of different emotions. Eventually, I want to do graphic novels. And I was thinking, and this was something my friend had suggested, that I might get into storyboarding because of the way that my brain works and how I can visually see everything. So right now I'm taking a 7-month course with this artist. I hope I say her name correctly, Alma Lore. And she has like a 7-month anatomy and drawing course. And it does other things like backgrounds and stuff. But I am behind. I started in March. I'm still on week 1. And life kept getting in the way. But I'm really pushing to get it done. I just have to push faster, plan a routine. But it will be done. I want it done before my birthday, which is in November. And right now we're doing figure drawing. So, this is very much on the nose of what I'm doing. But more about what I want to do. I have all these stories in my head. And when I was in university, I had thought that I wanted to be an author of a novel. Not necessarily a graphic novel, but just like a regular novel. Something leaning more toward romance. And I didn't know where to start with writing. Like I wrote, but it just didn't feel like it was my best. And so I decided to read, I think it was like either 200 to 300 books in a year. And I read a whole bunch of romance novels. And at some point I had realized that I need to make a graphic novel, right? Because I'm not going to be able to fully describe every detail of what everything looks like, but I can draw it. And I want my skills to get there so that you can really see every single detail. I think storyboarding would be really cool and really fun. I love movies. I love animations. And I would really love to give it a try and delve into that world. I'm not sure of how to get there, but as long as I'm working hard to get to the first step, which is putting out a webtoon, I'm sure that I can figure out how to get to the next step. Okay, so in the last video that I posted, I had talked about how I had read some books last quarter, and I wanted to tell you guys about those books. So at the beginning of the year, I read Fourth Wing, and then immediately after Iron Flame. So I read Fourth Wing, and I really enjoyed it. It definitely opened my eyes with lots of inspiration for things that I could do. And when I tell you that at the end of the book, I cried. I'm not going to give the details. I'm not going to give spoilers. But I was on the train going to Pyeongtaek, and I boo-hooed. Now, side note, those of you who don't know or haven't caught on, I live in South Korea. I'm an English teacher, and I get my hair braided near a military base, and that's in Pyeongtaek. And I was on my way there, and it was stupid early. I'm gonna say 6 something in the morning, and I was just reading, and I finished the book, and I was crying. And so I knew that, one, I don't like cliffhangers, so that's a thing that I already know. But 2, I needed to finish this. I thought it was going to be just a sequel. No, it's a series. So I was reading this book which was twice as long as the first book, and it did not need to be. There were a lot of parts that I felt that was just too drawn out. And I finished the second book. And again, that's on another cliffhanger with so many unanswered questions. And I hate that. If I had known that this was going to be a series, I would have waited. So this way I could have finished it all in one go and not have to wait months for the next book to come out. And I did this to myself again, because after these 2 books, when I really was only supposed to read 1 book a month, I was like, you know what? I'm on this reading roll. I'm having a good time reading. Let me get another book. And I had seen, just like I saw this one on TikTok, this brother was talking about how amazing this book was. And it's called The Will of Many. And when I tell you, one, it was a hard read because there was a lot of words that I didn't know, but it was such a beautiful story that at the end, again, I was in tears and also very pissed because I needed the second book. And this is also a sequel. No, not a sequel, a series. This is a series. And I just wish it was all out so I could have read it all in one go. Now I have to wait for it to come out. Now, and the last book that I read, which is a series, and all the books are out, is called Jade City. However, I did not like Jade City as much as I thought I would. I was very excited to read this type of book with Asian lead characters that were very all about all into their culture, and this was going to be like a mafia style book, and I was very here for it. But the way that it's written, it's not written through one person's point of view. There's many point of views that come across, and I'm usually set on, okay, we're going through this one character's thought process and what's happening, and we're seeing it through their eyes. And even with when it got to Iron Flame, you got to see both of the main characters, but it was only 2. It was only 2. Jade City, you had the main family, you had their 3 perspectives. Then you had like someone who is going to be popping up apparently through the rest of the series. You had his perspective. Then you had someone else's perspective. And it was very difficult for me to pinpoint where we were going, what was happening. And then when I finally did, everything started to like make sense. Like, I guess you could say, while this was happening, this also was happening at the same time, what led up to this event. And now later I get that, but at the time I was like, what is happening? And that kind of turned me off from the book, and I wanted to finish it because I wanted to finish 1 book every month, but it felt like such a chore. And I don't want to read something that's going to feel like a chore, you know? I want to enjoy it. I want to revel in it, and I was not doing that. There were parts that I was like, oh man, oh, right? But then there were parts where I was just like, I don't know, I really have to finish this book, but I don't want to finish this book. Currently, I'm reading The Final Strife, and it's taken me a minute to get into it because, one, I've been busy. And I started out reading another book at the beginning of this quarter, but that author is going through some controversy that I don't want to support. And so I was able to return that and start over. Now, I'm working on this portrait, and I'm also working on faces at the same time. I'm looking at I'm going to say her name correctly, Elena Buya. And let me tell you, the head is not easy. I got this tip. I'm really bad at names. I got this tip that I saw on YouTube from, I think his name is Tim McBurn, and he was talking about the Loomis method and how we all need to look at the face as a cylinder and not just a flat shape. And so while I'm drawing these lines of how the head is supposed to be, even the lines that are like just in the direction so that I can make sure that I get the angles correct as much as possible, get the shading correct as much as possible. It was not easy, but I'm not upset with the outcome of what I've drawn here. So you guys, thank you for listening to me. I'm just going to let you guys watch the rest of the video and look at how I did these hands. Still work in progress, but I'm really happy with the results. And again, thank you for listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button, and let me know if you read any of these books and what you thought about them. Don't give me any spoilers for The Final Stripe though. See you guys later. Bye.